Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today marks day 21 of the hashtag SSSVEDA challenge, and for today I thought I would bring up a bit of an older topic that I wrote on in one of my LinkedIn articles a few months back on how to avoid tenants from hell. Now, if you're in the rental game and you're dealing with tenants, that's the biggest thing you want to avoid is people who are either going to be bad tenants and going to maybe cause damage to your properties, or they're going to give you a hard time, or landing that person who is considered a professional tenant, someone who knows the laws inside and out and that can actually stay in your property for months at a time without even paying any rent. So I'm going to give you my top 5 tips on how to avoid those tenants from hell. So step number 1 that you want to do to avoid a tenant from hell is have an actual application process. A lot of people, when they're talking to tenants, it's kind of you meet them, you show them the unit, and you agree to rent. And I mean, while there may not be anything necessarily wrong and you can get a great tenant that way, it's definitely one of those filter processes that I use to help weed out the people who are not necessarily going to be the great tenants. And the reason why I want to have an application, one, so I can get all of their information, so I know how to contact them, get some references and things like that. But 2, it tells me how they're going to be like as a tenant if they're bucking at any of the questions that I ask on my application. If they start arguing with you, oh, I don't want to provide this, or I don't want to provide that, it's starting to tell you that, oh, they're trying to either hide something or they don't like following instructions. And when you go to have a discussion with them, they're going to fight you on different aspects of the rental. So step number 1, always have a full formal application that a tenant has to fill out. Step number 2 is to actually verify their employment. So on the application, they should have filled out where their job is, what they're working, and how much they make. The best thing you can do is call up the job and ask them, how are they as an employee? How much do they make? 2 things that happen. 1, you want to find out if they do indeed have a job and are going to be able to cover the rent. And 2, you find out how they are as an employee. If the company's having trouble with them as an employee, likelihood you're also going to have trouble with them as a tenant. So it's very important to call the company they work for and verify their employment. Step number 3, that's to do a landlord reference check. Now it's very important you get 2 landlord reference checks if you can. I always get the current landlord and of course the one just before that. Now the reason why I want both is because of this. 1, current landlord may be fully truthful, but what if they're having problems with the tenant? They just want that person out. They're going to tell you how great they are, they pay on time, things like that, hoping that they're going to pass their headache on to someone else. They'd rather get rid of that tenant. Whereas the person before them, they're not dealing with that person anymore. So they're more likely going to give you a good, accurate review of what this tenant is like. Because they've gotten rid of them, they might try to protect you and say, listen, here's what to watch out for this tenant. Or if they give glowing reviews, perfect. Now you got glowing reviews from 2 past tenants. That's a great reference. The other trick I do too to make sure I'm actually talking to the landlord is I actually change the rent up by a little bit, say $50, to find out if I am indeed talking to the landlord, because most landlords know exactly what their rent is, versus if I get someone who put down maybe their friend saying, can you act as my landlord? Now I'm not saying that happens, but sometimes it can. Step number 4 is that I do a credit check on all potential applicants for my properties. The reason why you want to do a credit check is because this is the only thing that cannot truly lie to you. The credit is going to tell you a tale. It's either going to tell you a really good tale about how responsible these people are with their credit, they pay their bills off, things like that, or it's going to tell you a horror story about missed payments, defaults that they've been in, any bankruptcies or foreclosures where they haven't paid their bills. If they have trouble paying their phone bill, what's the likelihood they're going to pay their rent? So it's very important. You need to pull that credit and find out exactly what their payment history is like. And step 5, if you make it all the way to this point with an applicant, the final step is what I call the gut check. So after you've gone through everything, do you still feel comfortable with these tenants? If there's something that's just not sitting right, likelihood that's going to continue throughout the tenancy with that person. So you want to make sure that you totally feel comfortable with them after you've done all your checks before you actually sign that lease with them. If that gut is telling you do not rent to this person, then I highly recommend you listen to your gut. I had a situation one time where I just deep down felt like this is not going to work out, it's going to end badly, but I felt some external pressures from business partners and stuff saying, oh, give them a chance, we want a tenant. I put that tenant in there, and next thing you know, they walked away with over $8,000 damage to my property. So at the end of the day, if you're just not feeling comfortable, listen to your gut. That's the final step there. Now, I don't mean to use this to scare anyone, but at the same time, it's your investment property and you need to do what you can to protect it. It's your money at the end of the day. So use these 5 steps, have the application, do an employment check, credit check, reference check, and a gut check. And at the end of the day, if they pass all 5 of the checks, perfect, you've got a great tenant. Now, I've had some really awesome tenants over the years that have really taken care of my property. They've been awesome to deal with, great communication, things like that. So don't be afraid to put tenants into your property, but just make sure you take the time to filter out and screen them properly. All right, guys, so those are my top 5 tips. Make sure if you guys like this video, don't forget, throw a thumbs up down below. If you have any comments on maybe some tenant situations you've been through, throw those in the bottom. It's always great to learn what other people have gone through so we can all learn from each other. And lastly, if you haven't already done so, don't forget, hit that subscribe button. It's going to be appearing right about here, and we'll see you tomorrow.